So today we're getting into hot tub shock, and I'm going to go over the different kinds of shock, what the pros and cons are of each one, how to decide which one might be the better option for you and your hot tub. And that's what we're covering today. Hi, I'm Jeff Campbell from Hot Tub Owner HQ, and I'm glad you're here with me. So really there are two main kinds of shock, and there are some exceptions of course, but primarily you're going to find either chlorine-based shock or non-chlorine-based shock. Non-chlorine shock is chemically called monopersulfate. I think I'm saying that correct. I'm not a linguist, but it's MPS for short. Chlorine-based shock is sodium dichlor. It's important to point out that there are numerous kinds of chlorine-based shocks, and many of them are designed for swimming pools only and not hot tubs. So do look for a chlorine-based shock, if that's the way you decide to go, that is designed for hot tubs or spas, and usually that's going to be sodium dichlor. So it's important to point out that chlorine-based shock disinfects the water, whereas non-chlorine-based shock purely oxidizes the water. Technically, they both oxidize, but chlorine also disinfects and sanitizes the water, which non-chlorine-based shock does not. Now, what does oxidizing mean? As the name implies, it basically means that oxygen is being combined with the molecules. Specifically for hot tubs, what that means with non-chlorine-based shock is that it's removing organic contaminants that are in the water. What do I mean by organic contaminants? I mean skin cells that flake off in there, body oils, lotions, perfumes, deodorants, things like that. All of those things that are on our bodies end up in our hot tub's water, and those become organic contaminants. They can clog the filters. They can make the water cloudy. They can render sanitizers less effective. So shocking it, specifically with a non-chlorine-based shock, removes those things. As I mentioned, non-chlorine-based shock does not disinfect the water. It does not sanitize the water. It's crucial with either form of shock that you use. It's crucial that you do continue to use a sanitizer in addition to the shock, which is also called oxidizer. So you've got to use both. I'm going to get into a little bit later in the video how often to add those things, but it's crucial that you do maintain both of those. But a non-chlorine-based shock does not sanitize the water at all. It does not kill bacteria at all the way chlorine-based shock does. But there are some reasons you might want to select non-chlorine-based shock in spite of that. I'm going to cover that a little bit later in the video as well. I do also want to point out, though, that when sanitizer becomes ineffective, and that could be chlorine-based sanitizer or bromine-based sanitizer, when it becomes ineffective, chemically it turns into something called chloramines or bromamines, depending upon whether you're using chlorine or bromine. And non-chlorine-based shock, as well as chlorine-based shock, but both types of shock will actually remove those from the water. Why is that important? Well, chloramines or bromamines aren't sanitizing the water anymore. They've basically become ineffective, but they can give you false readings when you dip that test strip in there, making you think that the levels are acceptable when they're really not. So shocking the water is crucial for removing those so that you get an accurate reading on your test strip so that you know exactly what to add to your water. So I mentioned that non-chlorine shock doesn't kill bacteria. That sounds yucky, right? So why would you want to use a non-chlorine-based shock? Well, for starters, it will be gentler on the skin than using a chlorine-based product. A lot of times chlorine, especially high levels, can irritate our skin or maybe even make the skin red and blotchy if we have too high of a level of chlorine. So it's gentler on the skin for starters. Another is that you can add non-chlorine-based shock and get back in your hot tub immediately. You can't do that with chlorine-based shock. You need to wait at least 20 minutes. Some experts recommend waiting as much as 24 hours. I don't do that, but you do want to wait at least 20 minutes and then check that level before you get in to make sure that the chlorine levels aren't too high. With non-chlorine-based shock, you can hop right in. Another pro of non-chlorine-based shock is that it does not affect your pH. And that's a great thing if you're struggling to balance the alkalinity or the pH of your water. Non-chlorine-based shock isn't going to impact that whatsoever. And then the last plus of using a non-chlorine-based shock is that it doesn't add calcium or cyanuric acid to your hot tub's water the way some chlorine-based products can. I do want to point out, though, those things are more commonly added to pool shock than they are hot tub shock. But you do want to be aware of that because it could be in the shock that you're using. Real quick, if you like this video and you want to see more videos like it, smash that like button for me. It's a great way to send YouTube a signal that this is a good video and they're going to show it to more people just like you. Helps me grow my channel, and it's a great way to say thank you to me for making these videos. So, why would you want to use a chlorine-based shock? I just covered the alternative, but what about chlorine? Why not show chlorine some love? For starters, it's cheaper than non-chlorine-based shock, significantly cheaper in most cases. Another one, and this mostly applies if you have an in-ground hot tub or in-ground pool, or even above-ground pool, but if you have a hot tub or a pool that does not have a cover, the way mine does, then it's going to be getting the sun beating down on it 24/7. Well, maybe not 24/7 because it's not going to happen at night, but you get my point. When the sun is hitting the water on a regular basis, it's going to be much more prone to algae growth. Non-chlorine-based shock isn't going to impact algae whatsoever, but a chlorine-based shock will kill algae. So it's a great thing to do if you don't use a cover on your hot tub. Another aspect of chlorine-based shock is that it works very quickly. That doesn't mean you can get in quickly the way you can with non-chlorine-based shock, but it does work very quickly at killing bacteria and any sort of contaminants that are in the water. So which one do you want to go with? Well, personally, I've used both. I do typically find that chlorine-based shock cleans my water a little bit better. It's a little bit clearer, a little bit less cloudy, and it doesn't irritate my skin as long as I add the appropriate amount. But if you do struggle with skin irritation and hot tub chemicals, I would definitely go the route of a non-chlorine-based shock. I would just make sure that your sanitizer levels are appropriate and that you're maintaining those throughout the week. So let's talk quickly about how often to add both sanitizer and shock. What I do is I use bromine tablets in a floater, and my floater's back there. And I put about 4 or 5 of those in a week, and I just let it do its thing. And then the next week I put more in, and I just keep going. It's an easy way to set it and forget it. When I'm in the hot tub with the jets on, I often will set it out on the side here, just so that it's not bumping into me while I soak. But that's an easy way to do it. And then about once a week, I will add maybe a 1/4 cup of hot tub shock. And again, that's usually chlorine-based, but I have tried non-chlorine-based shocks. In fact, the MAV Aqueduct company sent me all of their chemicals a short while back. I did a video where I broke down all of them and how I liked them, how I used them, what I thought about them. You can check that video out right up here if you haven't seen it, if you're curious about it. And one of the products they sent me was a non-chlorine-based shock. And I did actually like it, and I didn't find that it led to cloudy hot tub water the way some previous ones that I've tried had. Now, I will say that occasionally, I've got 2 teenage daughters and a toddler. Occasionally, my teenage daughters will have friends over, and you can bet a bunch of teenage girls soaking in here with perfumes and body lotions and hair product and all that kind of stuff. You can bet the next morning, my hot tub water is going to be a little cloudy. So I will typically add about another 1/4 cup of shock after a big event like that, where a lot of people have been soaking in the hot tub, because the more people that soak, the more contaminants get in the water, the more your sanitizer gets depleted, and the greater the need for you to shock your hot tub. The next question people want to know about shock is when you drain and refill your hot tub, and if you're not sure how to do that, I drain mine in as little as 15 minutes. Check out this video right up here where I walk you through how I do that. But when you drain and refill your hot tub, should you add shock right away? And especially if you're using a floater like I do, those tablets aren't going to disintegrate immediately. So if you dip a test strip in right after you've changed the water, it's not going to show any chlorine or bromine. So should you add shock? And the answer is no. And the only possible exception would be if you're on well water, which might have contaminants in there. But if you're on a city water supply that's got chlorine in it automatically, you've just refilled it from a garden hose, there's nothing wrong with that water. It does not need to be shocked. Go ahead and wait a full week before you shock it. Just make sure you've added the sanitizer. That could be tablets, liquid, powder, whatever. But wait a week before you shock it. It's just a waste of money to do it before then. Anyway, I hope this video helps you. If you want to know how to maintain your hot tub's chemicals fully in as little as 5 minutes a week, check out this video right up here on my channel, where I walk you through everything that I do, not just shock, but everything that I do to maintain my hot tub every single week. But for now, I'll see you in the next video.